Good morning, everyone. It's so good to see all of you this morning. I'm a morning person, and so the forum is my favorite thing. I got here about an hour and a half ago, started preparing my questions. The theater was completely dark, but I was not able to stay up till midnight last night. I was just, my wife, Heidi, was able to see and made films, and it was breathtaking, and it just almost brought tears to my eyes to see it finish and close. But anyway, it was a delight. It's so good to see everyone. My name is Malcolm Young. I'm the Dean of Grace Cathedral. And it's so good to see you. We're back at the forum again. As you'll notice that as the 8:30 service finishes, more of the 8:30 service people will come join us. Yesterday, our 2022 artist in residence Lee Mingwei presented his work, Our Labyrinth For Grace. It was an epic 12-hour performance by 3 dancers, with an opening song by the men of the Cathedral's choir of men and boys, and a closing Bach fugue by Susan Jane Matthews. It sounded amazing. This work has previously been performed around the world, including Centre Pompidou in Paris, the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, and Tate Modern in London. In Our Labyrinth, the dancers sweep a mound of rice into patterns on an ink-black dance floor. At each location, the performance changes as the space and time where it takes place infuses the work with a different feeling and character. Today, I'm joined by Lee Mingwei and the dancers who performed Our Labyrinth For Grace, Aya Sonet, Jean-Gabriel Manoli, and Wu Cheng Lung. We'll be talking about the creation of the work, what it feels like to perform it, and how the work has evolved over time and space. Welcome, and thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Mingwei, I wonder, just there may be few people who are watching either online or here this morning who haven't heard you just give a brief introduction of your background and your work, just to help set the context.
Yes, thank you, Malcolm. Well, first of all, it's great to be back in the Bay Area because this is very much a coming home for me. So I'm originally from Taiwan. I left Taiwan to go to Dominican Republic before I came to settle in San Francisco when I was 12. So I went to a boarding school, a Catholic boarding school in Portola Valley called Woodside Priory. And then from there, I went to East Coast graduate school and then now live between Paris and New York. And I was telling Malcolm and Heidi earlier that when I was in high school, one of the most beautiful memory around the Christmas time was Father Christopher taking us to come and gawk at your decoration. And you can just imagine all the high school boys going, oh, like this. And then after that, we'll go to Chinatown and have a fabulous Chinese dinner.
Right, we went past the restaurant the other day. We were in the car and you said, that's the same place, same everything.
Yes, and I didn't tell you this, Malcolm. So a few days ago when the dancers arrived, I took them back to that restaurant. It's called Yue Li. And they still have exactly the same menu. And what was really, really moving was that the son now is a chef. And he doesn't remember me, of course, but he remembers the dishes that his father cooked for the customers. And I say, do you still have those dishes? And that's when I realized the menu is exactly the same. So we ordered some of the same menu, and the taste was very, very similar. So I'm very happy to be back.
Yeah, it's like really bring back those childhood memories.
Yes, yeah, after 40 years.
I was hoping that they were going to say, oh, Mingwei, we're so glad to see you again.
And free lunch.
Free lunch. No. We'll put you at your old table.
Yeah.
And so your artistic journey was a little bit through textiles and weaving, yes, and then into a kind of performance art that rather than being upsetting or confrontational, actually is connecting and humanizing.
Yes, yeah, because I went to California College of Arts and Craft at the time that we had craft in the name of the school. I was in the textile department. So I was a weaver for many years. A lot of people still ask me if I am a textile artist. I say deep down inside, I am still a textile artist because I weave a human connection, work with human history and story. So yes, I'm still a textile artist in that way.
Yeah, that's great. I wonder maybe if the dancers, if you might, each of you introduce yourself just to us. We've seen you in such a wonderful place upstairs in the cathedral, but we'd love to know a little bit more about where you came from and your form of dance.
Hi, my name is Jean-Gabriel Manolis, and I'm a Paris-based dancer performer. I'm not graduated, but I was trained mainly in Butoh, which is a contemporary art form between dance and theater. And I encountered Lee Mingwei's work in 2017 in Paris for Our Labyrinth, and I performed several times this piece since.
Great.
My name is Aya. I'm originally from Japan, but I'm based in Munich, Germany. I studied classical ballet, and I came to Germany as a classical ballet dancer. But now I developed more contemporary technique, so I would call myself contemporary dancer. And last year in Munich, in the museum, I met Mingwei. And this was the first time I joined Our Labyrinth, and since then I'm doing several times.
And your sister joined us yesterday. She was here in the morning. She was here in the afternoon. She loves you so much.
she loves this work and Mingwei-san's work very much.
Yeah, it was good.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, I come from Taiwan. My name is Chen Long.我以前是学习打鼓的，然后以前在表演艺术里面有一些中国的武术跟太极的经验。
Okay, I'm going to translate for Chenlong. So I used to learn drum or Tai Chi and drum and martial arts. That's my background.
Sorry. Yeah. So Chenlong is one of the original dancers for Our Labyrinth when this work was commissioned for my service show at the Taipei Fine Art Museum in 2015. So he's the oldest member, although he does look very young. Thank you.
Senior member.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Senior member. Very, very good. Thank you, Malcolm.
I wonder, you have the microphone. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about your childhood memories of dance. What did dance mean to you when you were a young boy, when you were a child?
哦，其实我没有一些身体的经验，是我进了那个舞团之后，就是我们打鼓的团队之后才开始学习，就是25岁之后。
I was not originally trained by a dancer, and I think it's when I was 25 years old, I joined the youth dance group, which is a drum performance group. So that's how I learned my physical training, in a way, as a dancer.
Yeah. Thank you. How about you, Aya? What are your first memories of dancing as a child?
I'm dancing all my life. I took my very first ballet class on my 4th birthday.
4th?
Yes. Oh. So every time a birthday comes, and it's kind of an anniversary for me.
Yes. And you began in ballet, and maybe you can tell us about how your work as a dancer evolved over time, as you did different kinds of dancing.
Until I came to Germany, I was really into ballet, classical ballet. But then I found, because in Japan, I didn't have so much chance to do other things, other dance. But then I met contemporary dance. I mean, contemporary dance means a lot. There are a lot of different kinds. But then I was totally attracted, and I started to learn.
Was it hard to adjust from doing the ballet dancing that you did as a child to doing the kind of dancing that you do that's contemporary as an adult?
the physically like technique I could learn, but somehow the behavior as ballet dancer and contemporary dancer was a bit different. And for some years, everybody said that I look like too much ballet dancer. And, to find the, I don't know, maybe still I'm like. Sometimes look like ballet dancer, sometimes contemporary dancer, but I'm hoping that I can have both qualities and I can use according to the occasion would be nice.
Yeah, well, each of you have a very different style, and for those of us who've watched you in the Tate here, maybe of people in other places too, it's refreshing and beautiful that you don't do it the same way. Those slight differences are part of what makes it even more beautiful. It's individual to you. Yeah.
Sorry, let me just, I think one of the, like you say, one of the most moving thing to work with these extremely talented artists is that they're so unique. And I really treasure the uniqueness and what they bring into this work. It makes work much richer than I could ever imagine. So I was talking to them, and one of them told me this is one of the most difficult dance that they have ever done. And the reason is because usually a choreographer will give the piece to the artist, and the artist will do it what he or she wants, usually, according to the music and the movement. But here, all I say to you is two things. One is to move very slowly, and the other one is to listen to the rice. So that really exposes you to a complete, I mean, you just have to be completely open and very raw. And in a way, probably quite different from the previous instruction and experience. Yeah? Do you want to say something about that?
Yes, indeed. It's not a choreographed piece. It's all improvisation. And it's not a piece about the dancer itself, the movement, but more about the piece as an entity, as a system. And the rice, the broom, the audience have their own place in this work. So I mean, I was trained as a Butoh dancer, so it's much more about improvisation than choreography. So, but still, just to listen to the rice, it opens such a vastness. And of course, it's called Our Labyrinth for a reason, because we have to also unfold our own labyrinths. And performing the piece, you are very confronted to your inner labyrinths, definitely.
Could you talk a little bit more about Butoh dancing and just what attracted you to that form of dance?
Well, so I started to dance quite late because I was first trained as an agriculture engineer. So, yeah, completely different.
And dancing with rice.
Dancing with rice. Makes sense. So I started with contemporary dance, actually, but it felt a bit that something was missing. And randomly, I discovered a Butoh video, and I thought, this is what I have to do. So I just went for it, and yeah, was trained then as a Butoh dancer. So it's a form that is really between theater and dance, but usually, not always, but it's quite slow. So it made sense then to encounter Mingwei's work, also because he was looking not only but also for a Butoh dancer, because of the behavior of the body. Especially in Western civilization, we tend to have very outward movements. And what I think Mingwei was looking for was something more centered, more grounded. And Butoh dancer usually has this quality. And just to come back to the childhood memory, I just had body movement class, I think, when I was a kid. And I just have this very vivid memory of an exercise or practice. We had to start from the ground and grow as a plant, so very slowly. and all the kids were very fast, and I was the last one, just unfolding. And so all the class was gathering around like, oh, he's very slow. So probably it was already in my body to have this kind of pace.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I mean, it's something. The technology that we've grown up with has an effect on the art that we do and how we carry our bodies. In Hawaii, the people who grew up on Maui it was very remote, and they didn't know what people were doing around the world. And then when YouTube came into being, the surfers who were on Maui saw what everybody else in the world was doing, and they have the best place to surf. They learn from all those places, and there was just this resurgence where five of the most 10 famous surfers all of a sudden were from this tiny place because they began to learn what other people were doing. And I wonder if you can talk about that, just how technology has changed your art, how those new communications devices and have exposed you to other ideas. I love the idea of being, by the way, I got a scholarship in agricultural engineering too. We're both like brothers, farming brothers. But yes, so how does seeing other people and on the internet, how does that affect what you're able to do yourself? Yeah, I would love to hear what Mingwei, yeah.
So I'll use Our Labyrinth as an example. When during the COVID, so the curator at the Met say, Mingwei, can we bring Our Labyrinth to the Met? The circumstances will be very different because no one can come to the Met, no one can be there except you and the dancer. And I thought, that's not going to work because it has to be people. But I didn't say that because being an artist, intuitively, when the Met curator invites you to do work, you go, yes, of course. And then you have to find out how to resolve this issue. So very quickly, I told the curator Lee Mingwei to say, I'm very excited about that. Could we work with a local group so I don't need to do audition? So there's less contact there. So I'm trying to limit the contact. Very quickly, she said, can we work with Bill? And I say, which Bill? Well, Bill T. Jones. And I thought, oh my goodness, he is my God. Right. Do I have
I'm not worthy.
Exactly, I'm not worthy. It's like, whoa. So I was very lucky and honored to collaborate with Bill and his company. So when we did it at the Met, it wasn't like here, real time. We had a team of 25 people doing filming with 5 cameras in situ, and 3 different days, 3 different galleries. And each of the gallery has 4 hours of spend of time. A dancer takes on an hour and a half, another an hour and a half, another an hour. And then there is a slight difference in the Met version is that there is a sound artist that's doing impromptu sound, either with his or her voice or an instrument throughout the 4 hours. So it really is a duet between the sound artist and the dancers and the artwork in the gallery. So the dancer Yiling told me when she was doing dancing in the atrium, which at that time had the gigantic statue of Athena and the pharaoh at the other end, right, from Egypt. She said, when I walked into that gallery, I feel I am a part of these sculpture from 5,000 years ago. And so she really just danced from these gods and for the people that she imagined that lived many, many thousands of years ago. And that really elevated her in a very different way. And I wonder if I think it would be interesting to hear also, for example, what was it, the difference or the similarity for you as a dancer who performed in different places? For example, the last 3 months ago, we all did this piece at the Tate Modern, which was in the Turbine Hall. Quite different from a spiritual place like this, right? So I think it would be quite interesting.
That was one of my questions too.
Right?
I would love to
sorry,
hear
I stole your question.
No, it's a shared question. But I would love to hear what you say about different places you've been.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, each time we perform, it seems like a new work because the audience is different, the cultural background of the country we perform in is different, so we connect to the place, to the buildings we're performing in, and to the audience in different ways. And just comparing Tate and Grace Cathedral, Tate was this gigantic hallway. Actually, it was like, it's considered as a street, so people would just go by. It's nothing to compare to such a dedicated place like Grace Cathedral. And also the size of the pool of ink, so this area we are performing in, it was quite different. At Tate Modern it was very, very big, and there were actually 2 dancers at the same time. And performing here, it felt very intimate to me. I could really feel the audience being very with us and not just passing by. And the round shape makes it also very sacred somehow. With the candles, it was a very, very different performance yesterday compared to all other times.
我觉得在法国庞毕度的时候，就那边的人群会走来走去，所以于我而言，它是一个蛮特别的地方。然后它的空间也很不一样。那在英国泰德的话，它的人群跟空间也是很大，然后同时有2个舞者在交流，也是我第一次去这样的执行，所以也是蛮有趣的。那这一次的话，它教堂的一个凝聚力非常强，然后还有整个的氛围跟气氛，就好像在一个祭坛上面去做一个很神圣的一个奉献的感觉。
Okay, so the first, so I perform in the Centre Pompidou. It's a pathway, so there's a lot of people walk around, and then even though it's a huge space, and when in Tate Modern, it's also a huge space, but we have 2 dance group, and then I can still interact with audience there. But in Grace Cathedral, it's a big space, but actually I feel it's a very sacred place, and then I feel like I can dedicate my performance to this space.
还有就是每一次，不管在任何场地，就是会重新要跟每一个不同阶段的自己重新做连接，然后跟现场的新的事物、新的人们去做一个新的关系的产生。
So every performance actually is new to me. I need to reconnect or in responding to visitor space, environment, or every moment being there, I just reset, and it's a new performance for me.
If I could say something about yesterday, because I did the opening yesterday with choir, so it was just dreamy, so nice, because normally we don't have any music, so it was very special. And also, and after choir finished, then it came with such quietness. It was the most quiet performance I did. I could hear all the sound with the rice that the last grain drops from my broom. I could hear, and also to watch the other dancers perform, it was very special for me.
Yeah. That was one of the things that John pointed out to me yesterday. He said that you could hear the rice even from the gallery, and I do think you're right. I mean, there is a way in which I think people felt more uncomfortable talking over the art. I felt like they did understand the sacredness, and every drop of that rice. That's, I think, one of my favorite parts is when the last drop of rice falls from your broom. I appreciate that so much. Yeah, it was that sacred part that was so important.
May I have a question for you, Malcolm?
Yeah, definitely. I would love it.
So you've seen this work at Tate Modern and now at Grace Cathedral. what is the major similarity and the difference between these two for you?
You know, the big difference is that it has this, it's so much more beautiful at Grace Cathedral.
Yes.
It's just like everything, it's almost like, Tate is such an industrial space, and it's almost like you're humanizing this industrial space, this place that's the turbine room for big pieces of equipment. And you're making it something that seems dehumanizing, like Charlie Chaplin's movie, Modern Times. It's like this person who's caught in the gears of this mechanistic world. And so what you're doing in that place is you're making the mechanical world more human. And in here, you're part of this like greater beauty of the sacred space. So the light coming through the stained glass windows, even the way the candles would shimmer late at night, the music of the organ, the music of the men singing, even just the vaulted ceilings and the arches, it felt like you were in God's creation. I said to Mingwei, Aya, when you first began, I said, I feel like I'm at the beginning of the creation of the universe. So there were, I was moved to tears, had much deeper emotional response to what you were doing because of who you are and because of being in this setting. But I wonder if you could talk a little bit about what you're thinking about as you're doing this. Because what's happening to us is we're just getting these messages like you're present at the creation of the universe. But I wonder if it's what you're thinking as you're doing this important dance.
Especially when the warplane's flying over with.
Well, you know, the most amazing thing is that if you'd been here on a normal year where there wasn't fog, it would have been that whole day of explosions, and it was like what's usually this much was like this much. So it made a contrast of the warplanes, but it didn't dominate in the way they would have if you'd done it last year. But yeah, so what are you thinking of when you're doing the work?
Actually, I'm really not thinking much while dancing. I'm just trying to be at the moment. It's difficult. It's really not thinking something, but feeling the space, time, the people around. And just, it's really this moment by moment. I think, I never think about what to eat after. you know, sometimes when you are doing something and bored, you can think of those things. But really, and also not thinking about where to go or what to draw.
You mean to create?
Right, that's what I was wondering.
No, this is really not. And so I'm aware of. I'm trying to be aware of what I'm doing, but without thinking. If this makes sense.
Yes. Yeah, completely.
我们舞者有讨论过，就是从走路开始，从房间出来到表演场地这一段很缓慢的走路。对我们来说是一种整理自己的过程。对我来说，就是那时候会有很多的想法，有时候会进来，那时候就慢慢的去把它清空。
Okay, so dancers, we have been talking about that from leaving the green room to the ingot pool. That path that we have been, there's a lot of thought during walking, but we're trying to calming down and get ourselves ready to begin to perform.
然后开始站在进入的场地的那个位置的时候，就很神奇。每次一走进去之后，那些东西就会慢慢的消融掉。
So it's magical that when I arrive the handing over point, these thoughts just disappeared, and I think I'm ready to perform. 然
后在表演过程中，当然还有 一定会，我觉得一定会很多的想法，想做或不做。这个时候就让它进去，然后出来，然后再来就是提醒自己回到呼吸，然后让这整件事再延续下去。
Of course, during the performance, there are some thoughts just in and out. Sometimes I will think what to do or what not to do, but I just accept all this coming in and out and go back to my breath, breathe, and then just continuous performing.
Thank you.
Yes, I wanted to add, indeed, people sometimes wonder if we are creating the patterns on purpose and if we are thinking about what we are drawing. And this is really not what the performance is originally. So, of course, it depends on dancers, so I will not speak on behalf of everybody, but mainly it's not about what you create, but being guided by the rise. And it's very interesting. For me, it's like entering a meditative state where you are very aware of your thoughts, of your movement, because it's still a performance. It's not like something you do on your own. So there is a performance quality, but it's much more about how you convey your inner labyrinth again onto the floor and how it communicates externally. And of course, while performing, thoughts and feelings arise. And it's very interesting to notice sometimes how they don't feel like your own, but sometimes the audience are. It's really about resonating with the rise. So depending on the weather, on the quality of the day, the rise would behave differently and radiate something different. And we are to resonate with that.
That's so interesting. So the fact that it's rice and not sand or gravel or something else matters an enormous amount. Mingwei, I wonder if all of you, you were all at the audition for this at some point. And I wonder if you can talk a little bit about that from your perspective in terms of how did you set things up and what were you looking for? And then from your perspective of how do you kind of try to understand what Mingwei's driving at and whether this is something that fits with what you have to offer?
Good question. So when I first did this in 2015, I actually kind of no idea who's going to come and do an audition. So we put calls out, and there were Tai Chi masters, there were yoga teachers, there were ballerinas, there were dancers from the wonderful the Cloud Gate. So all different kind of people. And there were like Chen Long and also the one that we selected really stood out. Mainly, it's not the technique, because really there is no technique here. It's there are techniques.
Let me say it again. So I think what Mingwei meant is there's no uniform technique. I mean, you have a tremendous technique. It's just each one is... and you were trying to control.
It's not in terms of technique, it's not a school like the ballet that you go train to do that. In fact, I was trying to do this with a curator after Tate Modern closes, after the last dance, right? And you all were there. So Tamsing and I did it for 5 minutes, and that was the most horrific 5 minutes for me. It was physically quite painful. And 5 minutes seems like 5 hours to me. And because the pool of ink was so large, I felt like I was just being sucked into this black hole and couldn't get out. Anyway, so I think what I was and still looking for when I audition dancers it's something about this feeling of this person, if they are sure of themselves and they're not performing other people's work or pretending they're performing. There were some people who came for audition, technique-wise, were great, but then it seemed too artificial for me and too expressive. There were, just to give you an example, a young lady came in, and when she saw the pile of rice, she just went run toward the rice and got down on her knees and started pouring the rice between her breast. And I was thinking, can you do this for 2 hours? I think the rice might be getting a bit tired for that. So, taking wise, she did fine, but I think it's just a little bit not what I was looking for. Maybe next time.
Well, that's interesting too, because it's an evolving thing, and so the qualities that may have seemed not as important at the beginning come to seem very important as you start to understand. But I would love to hear the dancer's perspective. What did it feel like to be auditioning for this work, and what research did you do, and how did you prepare yourself?
Well, it's very interesting because this is a work that is not showing off technique or whatever. Yeah. It's maybe showing off your being, so how do you do that? Yeah. And when I auditioned, it was a 10 minutes audition, so it's very fast. It's very quick when you move slowly. So what do you show? What do you do? And actually, I remember being quite silent with my body, sometimes not even moving, because it was much, it's about connecting with the rise. So if the rise tells you not to move, you don't move. And I think this is the quality Mingwei is looking for, how we are very sure of what we are doing. And its performance is always a question of decision, instant after instant. So if you hesitate or are not sure of yourself, it shows, and you become very fragile. And this is maybe what I noticed with other dancers, the quality of the dancers you selected. It's always like people know what they are doing, and they are just, I don't know the word. Well, you understand what I mean.
They're probably quite confident
exactly.
with who they are. I think that's the main quality of the dancers I work with.
Actually, I don't really know what I can say about my own audition. That time was during COVID time,
so it was a video
audition, so I had to introduce myself in front of the camera. But before I'm going, I saw one video from Pompidou. That was the only idea I had. So I didn't prepare anything. I just was there and I dressed up. And the moment after I introduced myself to the camera, and the moment I took Broom, I felt, I don't know, it was already different. The mood changed. And without thinking, I think my movement slowed down. But I don't know how slow it was, because now I'm supposed to be the slowest one. I'm always the very slow one. And I don't want to see the audition video anymore. I'm afraid. But it was already very special feeling to have this Broom for the first time. And another thing I remember was that then I went to the rice, and I wanted to move the rice. And the rice was surprisingly heavy. This was something I couldn't imagine.
Yes. Beautiful. It's very interesting.
Thank you.
Thomas.
第一次我跟明伟老师合作的时候，是这个作品从零开始，所以这个经验蛮特别，因为大家都不知道要怎么做，老师也只给我们一个指示，就是慢而已。
Okay, so during this performance, actually, is the very beginning of our labyrinth. So Mingwei only gave us one instruction, which is slow.
所以也不知道就是看着那一堆稻谷跟一个扫把，然后就想想自己能做什么，然后就真的就是扫着扫着，就有一些东西想跟他一些互动。
So I just look at a pile of rice, and then Bruno, I think of, okay, what I should do or what I could do. And then I try, okay, maybe I can do something around that while performing.
然后是在这么多年之后，唯一是在庞毕度的时候，那时候因为他有高的视角， 然后俯拍我的照片，然后就看到那个图形，我第一次看到这么奇特的图形，我想说，哎，原来这个是我内在某些东西展现出来，原来我也有那么美丽的一面。
Okay, so after years, and then I performed in the Central Pompidou, and that's a space, there's a balcony I can see from high. So that's the first time I see the pattern that I create, and that represents my very beautiful part of inner in my heart.
这时候我就比较有自信，因为之前都不知道为什么老师要找我表演这样。
And I was very confident that I have been years that I don't know why Mingwei chose me to become a dancer. So I'm very confident that ever since from then.
Thank you.
We have a tradition, we take questions from our audience. So if people could compose their questions. But this is related to what you just said, Thomas. And that is, I wonder if you can talk about how the work has changed over time. I would love to hear what you and Mingwei have to say. And I think that I could imagine this work being performed 50 years from now. And how will it change over those years? I think about the way that we do communion in church and 2,000 years of practicing, the way we break the bread, the way we hold our hands. And you look at old paintings, they're doing the same things. Yes. So I wonder if you can talk about the past, the present, and the future of this form of dance, this art.
我觉得就是之前的经验，告诉我就是我一开始会把自己当做这个是个表演的演出，然后后来每一次的演出之后，我发现原来我跟这个作品的关系不再只是我是个表演者，而是我在这个作品里面被这个作品疗愈到。
So previously I treat this as show, so I just perform it. But over the years, I feel like I'm part of the work, and I'm also being healed by this piece.
Beautiful.
所以在泰德的时候，艺林也跟我说过，我们有个舞者也叫艺林，然后他也跟我说，到后面他觉得这个东西有疗愈到他，所以于我而言，我觉得每个舞者都会经历到，一开始我们会想要展现技术，或想做些什么，或能够做些什么，但后面其实要回归到自己，是对于自己跟这个作品本身的一个态度。
So I was discussing another dancer who performed in Tate at that time, and then we also think that when we perform, we try, at the very beginning we thought we were going to show our skills or what we can do on the stage. But in the end, we found that we have to come back to our own, being ourselves, and just being very focused at that moment, and then that the work helped me as well as that responding to the work itself.
所以我觉得，不管在任何场地里碰撞出不同的火花，然后有很多的人们会产生很多奇妙跟新奇的一些连接。
So there's a lot of possibilities, different places or different moments or different visitors there, and then there was always been very different version of the performance for him.
所以到后面发现，原来我们做的这些东西也影响到一些观众，他们给我们回馈，然后也发现说，哎，原来我也有能力去疗愈到其他人。
So in the end, I realized that I can do something I can receive feedback from the audience, and I think that I believe that I can do something or I can share something to these visitors.
Yeah, as human beings change, this experience will change too. Mingwei, what do you have to say about this in terms of...
Well, this work was created 2015. So now it's 7 years, more or less. I think this work is very matured already. And it has a lot of confidence, and it could change in all different ways. For example, the Pompidou version versus the Met version versus Tate versus here. There are 4 completely different versions, and they are all beautiful in their own way. So, for example, when I was thinking about 100 years from now, how different it will be. And that is a question when Tate, the conservation department, when we have the meeting, because they acquired this work already. So when we have the meeting, we sat down, and they always start by saying, "Good morning. Imagine Ling, a curator, want to perform this work 100 years from now. What would he or she or they know about this?" So we're thinking that far away, and I really don't know what will happen 100 years from now. But I'm pretty confident the spirit will continue, maybe slightly different form. Maybe we all will be robots.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking,
right?
the robot version.
And which for me is perfectly fine. Yeah. If the robots can enjoy it, why not? You know? Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much. All right, so when performing in a space over several weeks, how do you feel yourself evolving in your relationship to the work? That's a great question.
Dancers, since I'm not the one who performs.
Even a one-shot performance like yesterday, even though we performed 3 times, you already build a connection, a very strong connection to the work, to the space, and to the work throughout the years. But each time is a renewal, as Cheng-Lung said. We always encounter the work as if it were absolutely new. Otherwise, you just go into your habits and you don't open your heart, your body, your mind to what's around. And it's not only the space that changes, but also, as I said, the weather, the feeling of the day, the audience. All these parameters are actually part of the performance. So it's not like there's not a... It evolves, but you never know towards which direction. It's just always changing, I would say.
Thank you. Please describe the broom design, materials, manufacture, and symbolism. And this is also a thank you for this experience of art and the appreciation of movement.
Okay, I'll answer that. The broom is actually relatively simple. We first encountered this in a store that sells Vietnamese handmade broom in Taipei. And then once we got it, we realized it was too short. So there was this piece at the end that we basically put something in there to extend it. The shape of the broom is this traditional shape called the wing of a crane. So you can see it's like that. It's very beautiful. And Jiaqi, a few days ago, just showed me that we found an older gentleman in Taiwan that hand makes this in Tainan. So when we go back to Taiwan, we'll go to visit this gentleman and commission him to make probably, how many Tates ones? 200? Anyway, so for the robots. Anyway, but yes, we are very lucky that we can find someone who makes this by hand in Taiwan.
Did you bring the rice with you from?
The rice was from Trader Joe's.
Okay,
so.
good. And then the surface of the ink spot.
Yes, the surface is this dance floor that is from a company called Harlequin that makes this dance floor around the world, and it was the same thing at Tate Modern everywhere. So we bought, it comes in big strips, so we put it down, and we cut the shape to fit the labyrinth, because I think it's very important to keep the memory of the original labyrinth up there. So if you look closely, the crown is exposed.
Right.
And then because the surface of this material is very sensitive, so it picks up the pattern underneath it, even if it's just a little indentation. So through certain light, you see the pattern of the original labyrinth.
Right, it's like
yeah,
that.
just a little bit. It's so beautiful. And since that labyrinth came from Chartres, I was telling Heidi that my biggest wish is to bring this work back to Chartres and perform there.
Could you tell, like Aya's dress, the pink in that color was so beautiful. Maybe you can talk a little bit about the clothes that everyone wore.
Yes, the dress that they have is what I call sarong, and the material is made from Japanese kimono fabric. So the pink one, so we actually have 5, 6, or 7 pieces for the dancer to choose which one they want to wear. And you chosen that pink one, yeah?
I thought that I'd mentioned, that's my favorite color.
Yes.
And so I thought that you mentioned that.
It's very beautiful.
Yeah.
It's very beautiful, yeah.
That's great. All right, for the dancers, how do you manage time during the performance?
This time, we are lucky that there was a clock.
I was the one who put that clock in. I just couldn't preach to everybody without having a clock somewhere in sight.
But actually, it was difficult to look up to check the time during the performance because mostly, not always, but mostly I'm looking at the rice. So I'm not looking too much up. So actually, I looked at clock like twice during the 1.5 hour performance. But I also have experience in a place that we didn't have clock. And yeah, somehow after several performances, we start to have inner clock. And yeah, it's related to the space, how big it is, and how much rice we have. So spreading the rice and in the space, spreading the rice in the space, and somehow we know more or less the time to start wrapping up. And this mostly worked, mostly.
And thanks to Rebecca, because we talked about when to ring the bell, the cathedral bell. So this time we decided to ring at a certain time. So when the dancer hears the 7 bells, they know they have 10 minutes to close the rice. And that also signals the next dancer to start walking toward the pool of ink. That worked, I think, okay, yeah?
It seemed like it was perfect. I mean, just the timing seemed like it was perfect. I think I said this to Mingwei after the Tate show. There's a spreading out of the rice, the creation, and there's the gathering in again. And there's moments when the pattern's so beautiful, I just like, please just leave it. Don't bring it all in again. So here's another question from our audience. The experience the performers describe reminds me of being mindful while meditating, then carrying this mindfulness into daily life. Has this performance impacted your daily life? It's a great question.
其实没有哎，我觉得还是维持自己生活。但是每次接到要演出的时候，我就开始想说，哇，是要多运动，让自己的机能，至少身体的健康跟状态要提升。然后就是还是要锻炼一下，维持一下体态。
I don't really do like a meditation every day, and just keep it normal. But whenever I know, okay, I'm going to perform like a couple months later, I just stay healthy and exercise and then prepare myself for the show.
因为我们表演很多年了，其实对我们来讲有一个开关，就是可能在某些时刻我们一开，就会进入状态。然后最重要是还是要熟悉整个场地，要看感受，还有人，然后还有就是排练，这个非常重要。藉由排练去把这个东西抓回来。
So over the years, actually, seems like a switch in my body. So whenever I know there's a show, so the mode will be on, and then I would just get ready. But the most important thing is these rehearsals. It's very important that I get to the space, understanding, okay, what the lighting or how huge the space is, and that's the most important for me to do the rehearsal and understand what I'm going to do.
但我觉得最重要是。我们之前有训练过这些东西，有累积很大量的基本功，不管是静坐啊，或是借由持续不断的练习，然后练习那个专注力，这个都是累积出来，才有办法把那个开关这样子切换。
So for my previous experience in the U Theater, the drum dance group, I have meditation training. And because on this experience, that's why I can just change to that mode and then ready for the performance. Otherwise, if you don't have this training, it's probably not.
Aya, how has what you do in Our Labyrinth changed your ordinary life?
During the performance, we are projecting our inner world on the floor with rice. But at the same time, doing the performance, because during the performance, sometimes many things happen, like kids running towards the rice, or somebody accidentally step on the rice, or many things happened. But we have to go on, and we have to deal with it. And somehow doing this performance made me much more aware of many things. So I'm aware of how I react or what I feel. And this has changed my private life also. I'm learning a lot from doing this performance, that how I deal with the things, or and then I'm taking it back to my private life, I feel.
Thank you.
Yes, I just wanted to add, I don't practice sitting meditation, but I was already looking for how every action can be done in a meditative state. And to me, this is something that is related to this work. It's very interesting to hear people, after seeing the show, saying, oh, this is something I want to try at home with a broom, and even sweeping my house, like actually cleaning the house. I can do it with that pace and create something else. It's not like it's not a chore. It becomes a meditation, and I think this is the work strengthened that quality of life in my daily life.
Yeah, thank you. I have so many questions for you, but we're out of time. And one of the questions I wanted to ask, but I'm just going to tell it to you, and maybe you can think about it, is when you talk about this as a ritual, it affects how I do ritual myself. And so even today, I mean, there is a way in which I'll be inviting the presence of the Spirit into the work of the religious ritual that will take place immediately after our conversation upstairs today. But it is because of your reflections on what you're experiencing in your ritual that it is affecting how I'm trying to perfect my own ritual. So thank you very much. It's like this could be a completely life-changing experience for me, because that ritual is a ritual I practice every day, and to have that be changed in any way is a huge change in my life. But we're very grateful for you all coming today.
Thank you, Malcolm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. We have just some quick announcements. Oh, thank you. Well, next week at the forum, Toby Keller, one of our trustees, will be talking to former Judge Ladoris Cordell about her new book, Her Honor, My Life on the Bench, What Works, What's Broken, and How to Change It. You're very welcome to join us at the 11 o'clock choral Eucharist in the Cathedral. And we rely on your support for the forum. Gifts of any size make a difference. You can place a gift in the donation box in the back, or you can give online at gracecathedral.org or by texting THINK, T-H-I-N-K, to 76278. And thank you very much, Mingwei, Aya, Jean-Gabriel, Jean-Moon. Thank you all for joining us today. What a gift it was to have you here in the forum.
Thank you.